Hi there and welcome to Inside Sim Racing. Hope you're well, by the way. I wanted to sit down and talk to you about Dirt 4 for a moment. You've watched some of my preview coverage and I just wanted to give some thoughts and impressions because the embargo's lifted and this is not a review. I have not played it all, so I don't consider that fair to label this a review if I have not played everything that the game or sim has to offer. So trying something a little different here, and what I want to tell you right off the bat, so you don't think that I'm, bashing, is Dirt 4 is great. I'm really enjoying Dirt 4 so far. I've only put about 12 hours in. Most of that has been on the PC side. There's been nothing wrong with the PS4. I just prefer PC because that's where I have all my stuff set up for it. I haven't touched career mode yet, and I've barely touched the Joyride section, and I have not touched multiplayer either. Multiplayer is kind of a weird thing. I usually like to look at that on day one to see what kind of load the servers can take and how well it does with the game being out in the wild. The concept of an intro in video games or simulations is always a good idea, but it's very rare that it gets implemented correctly. Dirt 4 starts you out in a rally car and tries to introduce you to the call-out aspects of the pace notes and the handbrake and gets you situated with controls. Unfortunately, while that may be good for beginners or for players that are not quite experienced at rally in particular, for those of us, especially on the PC side that own wheels, this is incredibly frustrating because at no point does it allow you to actually calibrate your wheel and pedals, make sure everything is working correctly, make sure that all the buttons on your wheel or button box are also assigned correctly. In my case, what happened when I tried the PS4 version, they have all the assists on, so it feels incredibly awkward, and I was not aware, and what I would suggest is actually pausing it if you are using a wheel and pedal set. Pause it, make sure that everything is calibrated correctly, make sure it does do auto detect, which is great. This is an error by Codemasters on their part. I'm sorry to say, it's a good concept, it's a good idea, but it's not properly executed in mind with people that are using wheels. So what was interesting is you make it through the stage and then it tells you basically how well you did, and then it recommends what level you should be at as far as difficulty, whether it's AI, handling models and assists, what have you. It basically said I was a noob at this because it felt so weird while trying to play it on the PS4, and that was purely because I didn't understand what it was trying to do. It had all these assists on and it was very awkward to control. I didn't know what button the handbrake was. It just wasn't up my alley as far as I'm concerned. When I got to the PC and did the same thing, I paused it instantly and then looked at what the buttons were assigned, reset the buttons that I needed to, made sure my wheel and pedals were calibrated correctly, and then all of a sudden it says that I'm at the highest end difficulty setting when I made it through there. Now, it does not turn off all the assists, and in my opinion, what should happen is all the assists should be turned off to evaluate how well you are doing, and then suggest AI difficulty and assists based on your no assist level. After that, you end up going to the, I believe it's the DirtFish School, which is great. They show you how to just navigate different types of cars and different types of scenarios correctly, although it does not seem to do anything. It doesn't give you, I think there may be achievements bound to those, but it doesn't seem to give you any perk as far as I can tell. I completed several of those missions in the rally school and it didn't seem to do anything. You didn't unlock anything, which would have been cool. I would have gone through the whole thing had it done that. Next, let's talk about the view. Now on the PS4, and I'm assuming the Xbox One, I have not touched the Xbox One version yet, but on the PS4 there is again no field of view. A very strange option again, because we've seen other games or sims do this, depending on what you want to call Project Cars, but they have a field of view setting in there and it's on a console. I still am baffled by the reason of not putting a field of view setting on the console. It is, however, on the PC, which is nice. The issue that I ran into was There's a very limited movement for the seat height, and for me, I felt like the seat height was too high in almost all the vehicles that I have tried. There were some that didn't seem as obtrusive as others, but most of the time I felt like I was looking down on the hood and the top of the wheel, which is not something that you would normally do, especially nowadays. You tend to sit much lower in the cars for center of gravity. I'm not so sure that that viewpoint is correct, although it can be helpful probably to those players that especially that are using the like a gamepad or the gamer style handling model. For those of us that are looking for more simulation experience, I don't understand why there's not more options to lower the seat. You can tilt it back, you can move it forward and back, which that's all great. You cannot, and that is on the PS4 version as well, you just can't lower it any further. I end up kind of looking down and then it obscures the dash, so you can remove the wheel and that's great, but my physical steering wheel is still blocking the tack, which brings me to my next point. When you put the difficulty up, just like Dirt Rally, you lose the option to have a tack on the side so you can see what gear and what RPMs you're pulling. I don't understand that. Why take that away? That just seems like a very odd thing to do. For people that have multiple configurations for wheels, whether they have them on their desk or whether they have them on some sort of rig or chassis, it's very, very hard, especially when you don't provide enough movement up and down to be able to see the dash of what it's trying to tell you. I don't understand not having the option available to put the tack on the side so that I can at least see what gear and RPMs I'm pulling. Now segues into another problem I have. The sound levels themselves, I'm not talking about the actual sounds because the engines sound phenomenal, just like they did in Dirt Rally. But the sounds themselves, why is it so hard for developers to put a slider in for opponent cars and then your versus your vehicle? What I found, and I tried several different headsets, I tried running through monitors, TV, through my surround sound system, the mix doesn't change, and the mix is not good because the other vehicles are always louder than yours. And when you don't have a tack to tell you when you should probably shift, you are really relying on the sound of the engine. And if you can't hear the sound of the engine, you're kind of lost. And for those people that don't have pristine hearing like myself, because I've raced cars since I was little and I've played in hard rock and heavy metal bands since I was a teenager, when my ears get tired, I have a very hard time distinguishing my engine note between the other engine notes, and it would really be helpful if we could pull down the volume of the other cars around me. Because I tell you what, when I'm in my race car, whether it be in a kart, sprint car, whatever, I can hear my engine note. I can hear the other cars coming, but I can always hear my engine note above everything else. As of right now, pre-release, there is no support for triples or for VR, and I know for some of you that is a big no-no. It will cause you not to buy Dirt 4. I don't know what to tell you. We have not seen any sign of there being support for either. It looks like it stretches when it's on triples. And again, there's just no VR support, period, at this moment. Doesn't mean it won't be implemented later, but at this time there is no VR support. So, sorry, VR users, you are out of luck with Dirt 4. Quickly, I'll touch on force feedback. I don't know if they're going to have any more patches that adjust force feedback. On the PS4 with the T300, I did not find it great. It is serviceable, but I felt like it was a little sloppy in the center of the wheel. Tried messing with the sliders, but at the same time, force feedback to me is not making the wheel heavier. It is about the detail that it gives you in the wheel to let you know what the car is doing, whether the surface you're on, the front end is bouncing, maybe the tires are digging in and then the wheel gets heavy, you touch a curb, you hit a rock, especially in rally, things of that nature. That is what I'm looking for force feedback. It may be different for other people, but for the T300 on the PS4, I messed with a few things, got it a little better. I'll have to play with it some more to really find out if there's an optimal setting. On the PC side of things, as stated earlier, I'm running the TSPC Racer wheel. It was better on the details. So then I tried the T300. There is a little difference there because the TSPC Racer is a stronger wheel. It seems to have a higher fidelity as far as being able to get the nuances in the road and what the car is doing. I feel like the PC still has a little bit of an edge. I would like more detail versus heaviness in the wheel. Okay, and now on to the handling and physics of the cars. Now, the question is Dirt 4 like Dirt Rally? Yes and no. Is it as hard or harder than Dirt Rally? Well, it's not harder than Dirt Rally. And again, is it as hard as Dirt Rally? Yes and no. So it depends on your definition and what you mean by is it as hard as Dirt Rally. When I started playing, I started doing the Your Stage stuff. And because you cannot memorize the course, I mean, you can restart and memorize it, but if you're trying to be like a rally driver, you don't want to really rerun the course. The way that is implemented makes it incredibly difficult no matter what setting it's on. Shorter stages are a little easier, and I think that's because, especially if they're harder, because you don't get the speed up. Longer courses of any variety become exponentially more difficult. Especially some of those courses you can have really long, fast sections, and then all of a sudden you can have a hairpin, which is great because it's to me that's challenging, and I enjoyed that a lot. Your Stage, to me, even though it just has 2 sliders, works incredibly well, and I think out of all the times that I tried it, I only noticed similar corners maybe once or twice. That's pretty good for the amount that I put in on Your Stage and with the length of courses that I was doing. The issue I think people are going to have is it is not going to feel as difficult to drive for the most part as people that are used to Dirt Rally. So if you wanted something as hard or harder than Dirt Rally to drive, this is probably going to disappoint you. But let me give somewhat of an explanation for why that might be. When I played Dirt Rally, I thought that a good portion of the cars were actually not translating that over the gradient grip level that should be happening, especially on the dirt surface side. My first instinct was it felt pretty good. It was the cars are very intuitive, most of the cars at least, especially on the rally side. And then what I noticed was, I was like, well, maybe there's a little too much grip in the back end of the car. I also noticed that most of the cars have this propensity to on throttle push. In fact, most of them kind of do a push period, which makes it easier for the new person to drive, but in the long run, I think it makes the car more difficult. So I struggled with there might be a little too much grip in the rear end. I saw other people posting, you can't do donuts, you can't do this, you can't. I was not having that issue, but you do have to drive the car differently. And Paul Coleman had stated in our interview on Beyond the Gloves, you can go watch that, they did a lot of reworking with aero and suspension, trying to get the cars to react more, especially realistic. The bumps that are provided in the courses really upset the car. I thought that all is great. So I have to play with it more. Really, I think it's going to disappoint a lot of Dirt Rally fans that are really like, this is the best thing ever. I think you're going to find it too easy, and that's unfortunate. But again, I would really caution you on what is realistic and what is not, and making that assumption, especially modern cars. Modern cars are not difficult to race. Modern cars are not difficult to drive. They are difficult to race fast, and that's what separates the best from the also-rans. So I would encourage you to keep that in mind. I will give kudos, however, on the asphalt or tarmac side of things. I think they vastly improved that over the gradient grip level, in my opinion, and getting the cars to react better on the asphalt. In my opinion, I thought the cars in Dirt Rally typically handled awful on the asphalt and tarmac. I do think that the brake seems a little too grippy. I might be splitting hairs there. I've got to play with it more, so don't take that as gospel or the final verdict on that one. What really surprised me was the Landverse vehicles. So the short course trucks and the buggy I think they handle phenomenal. It gives a good sensation because if you watch those trucks, they're heavy, lots of horsepower, lots of tire spin, but they still have the ability to have throttle control and control the grip and acceleration and bite through the turn. And that's what I think they do really, really well. So kudos, because this is not, while there may be just a handful of courses, it doesn't really feel like an afterthought. I thought they did a great job with these cars. So it's kind of in between, for me, it's in between Dirt 2. It's better than Dirt 2, and I really like Dirt 2, but that was on the arcade side of things. I could see them actually breaking out and getting together with the official short course series and actually putting out a short course game with trucks and buggies. I think that would be excellent. Last two things I'm going to touch on are sound and AI. Sound I've already touched on earlier with the exclusion of no slider for opponent vehicles. Maybe a nitpicky thing, but for me it's a big deal. But they do have sliders for other things in the game, which is always nice. And then you have the engine sounds. I've already touched on that as well, but they really are excellent. I think they've done a great job in giving you that visceral feeling with the grunt that the cars suffer from loading up the tires, and when the suspension compresses and the tires are grabbing and it groans, and then, you know, the car gets light as it's coming over a rise or a jump and everything gets light, and then the RPMs come way up. You've got turbo sounds that are just really some of the best that are out there. I say they're on par with Race Room as far as that. I really enjoy the engine sounds. When you get to some of the effects, especially the crashing noises, if you happen to hit, I noticed, like the right rear, where the taillights or the headlights might be, you tend to get an odd crunching sound with some sort of window break. And it's very loud, very abrupt. It surprised me. I jumped, actually. It almost scared me because it was so loud. And then I started laughing because it does sound a little comical. And again, this might be nitpicky on my part. I've crashed plenty of cars. I've never heard them do quite the sounds that they're making here. From there, let's move on to AI. I did run into a few issues with the AI on Rallycross and Land Rush. I think that either it's me and I am just flat better at other courses and combinations of car than I am at others, but I found that the Rallycross AI on the highest difficulty on a couple circuits don't seem to be as difficult as they could be, but when you do get a good race with them, they run excellent. On the short course side of things, I think in four-wheel drive, they're a little too chaotic. I think they need to have a little more spatial awareness. I'd like them to not beat and bang quite so much, and then it would give me the opportunity to kind of plan a pass and race them more cleanly. On the two-wheel drive side of things, I think they operate fantastic. They could be a little more difficult, in my opinion, but they operate really well. On the buggy side, they just flat need to up the difficulty on the buggy, the two-wheel drive buggy side, because I don't think that they are nearly difficult enough. But they do drive well in those two disciplines, both two-wheel drive disciplines. I think they drive well. I think their difficulty needs to be bumped up. Also, I have not touched on graphics. Now, the graphics, I believe, on the PC side of things are getting a day one patch, if I understand that correctly. And hopefully that comes out, so I wasn't going to hit on graphics too much. I think they look good. There are some low-res textures and some pop-in that I don't remember Dirt Rally having. So my assumption on the PC side of things is those will be addressed. But I think the lighting model and the particle effects that they have going on is outstanding. And actually the rain looks really good too. And I'm curious to know if anybody from that Drive Club, what is it, Evolution Studios, because I know some of those people went over there. I'm wondering if they had any sort of influence on the rain, because while it may not be quite as good as Drive Club, it still looks really, really well. So that'll wrap up my thoughts and impressions about Dirt 4. Again, I'm actually really enjoying Dirt 4. I know I'm kind of listing off some of the negative stuff. Hopefully I've highlighted some of the positive stuff as well, like Your Stage. Your Stage is, I think, really, really a great addition. And again, I haven't touched career mode, but I'm really looking forward to that as well. And just overall, I think Land Rush and Rallycross work excellent. I think they've improved on Rallycross because of the tarmac or asphalt handling model. So, just a great job so far of what I've played from Dirt 4 and Codemasters. So, good job, guys. Thanks a lot for putting this out. For all the latest in sim racing news, you can hit up isrtv.com. You guys have been great. I've been Strange. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next video.